My wife said it best. What's the point of even watching the show anymore when the golf tourney ended in episode 2? That is what she said to me. And she wasn't really satisfied with the episode and, what she wanted, what she liked from the season, from season 1. God, I can't speak. It's now physically fucking dead, right? Just like many people, she liked Pedro. She liked Joel and Ellie's relationship. So with him dead and the series going in a different direction than what she, expected, she does not vibe with it. And I told her that that's what many people feel about the second game. Now, I am getting ahead of myself. I don't just want to talk about episode 2, but I also want to talk about episode 1. I was going to when it released, but life, I got busy. But episode 1 was fine. Like just fine, nothing too crazy, nothing insane. It just shows us the current status quo of 4 or 5 years later since the last time we saw Ellie and Joel, right? The episode focused just on showing us what's going on, introduce new characters, and also show the motivations of Abby, who is on her way to avenge her dad. Yeah, right. Now I'm not really going to compare the game and the show because we're like 5% into what's going on, but the episode opens up with Ellie fighting a guy like 3 times her fucking size and weight and winning, of course, in an unbelievable way, while also being told, he was holding back. So that's got a sting, and that's a fucking thing, I guess, right? Joel, I guess, is like a project manager and a fixer for things in the town too. Kind of what he was doing before the whole apocalypse happened. I will say that Tommy's wife asking Joel to work faster or get people to work faster, somehow speed up the construction irked the fuck out of me a little bit. While she is abdicating for accepting more people in, they're running out of space and she's just kind of, expecting the impossible, right? It makes her a bit unlikable asking for the impossible and trying to appeal to someone's past struggles. And, it doesn't really work because it's not really realistic for what they have, right? And yeah, it just sort of made me look at her like, bro, like you got to be realistic about this. Like you guys have been running this town for how long? You had to have expected to come to this sort of situation at some point. Even when she questions Tommy on why it's different when if it was Joel and him instead of Diana and Ellie going into this building and clearing out clickers and infected, right? It irked me because, as we can clearly see, she doesn't take things seriously. And if she did, like Joel and Tommy would, she would have been, she wouldn't have been bit, at least in my opinion, right? Joel and Ellie are in a weird spot where Ellie doesn't want to have anything to do with Joel, at least, mostly, right? She's a fucking asshole about everything, right? Mainly because I guess she feels like she can't be her own person without him trying to be there for her. And that as well, that's a valid feeling, right? And I think that mixed in with, feeling like she's being lied to, or that she was lied to by the end of the first season when Joel said that everything was fine, et cetera, right? Basically turned her feelings towards him pretty sour, right? At least that's how I view it, right? I think most people who played the original game agreed Ellie is a smart kid and understood Joel is lying to her for her own benefit, right? We also see in this show that Ellie is a bit more of a brat here and not her nonchalant, kinda stoic self in the game. Like, she's a little bit more mature in the game. She has this idea that she is special, and I'm sure they will hit the nail on the head that Joel robbed her of her purpose to help the world, et cetera, right? And now that episode 2 is out, they sort of just like they never really address it at all. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Well, just to be clear, even if it worked, the whole vaccine, I guess, and even if Neil said it would have worked, distribution and manufacturing of the vaccine would have been fucking impossible, right? Look, I get it. Ellie wants to be more independent, be herself, not feel like she has to get special protection and treated like a kid because of Joel, whether intentional or not. But when she's out fighting and dealing with infected, she brushes aside the aspect of being bit because she's immune, so she doesn't really give a fuck about that danger. She doesn't have the same level of awareness and danger and seriousness when it comes to that. So it kind of makes her like, because she's so immature about it, because she knows that she's safe, that she's not going to turn. She can definitely fucking die though, right? I understand her frustration with a lot of things, right? However, the show makes her attitude towards Joel just come off bratty and so much of a fucking asshole. It makes you doubt if she has ever told Joel her feelings. And it's to the point where Joel just wants to fix things. And, he talks to a therapist who fucking hates him, right? Um, he talks to her to try and find a way to sort things out. Everyone is super confused why their relationship is like this. Even though in episode 2 she's like, we're good, me and him are good, but they're not really good. They haven't even spoken, right? Since she stared him down. But I'm getting ahead of myself, right? Joel saved her life and she's treating him like shit. And of course, we can't just have that dangling over her head to, do or expect her to do what he wants, et cetera, et cetera. But there comes a point where you got to be like, you got to be honest and treat him like a person. And it's just really disappointing, right? It's like you go ahead and do so much for somebody and they treat you like shit. Like, it's not a good thing to see, or, it's not a good thing to experience as well. Like, imagine being Joel, right? Especially him looking so hurt and wanting to spend time with her, and she just doesn't want anything to do with him for the most part, avoiding him. It's crazy. I will say this, I do like Dinah and the actress that, that works. So does Jesse and his actor. The direction they went with Ellie, though, is a bit more bratish, still like how she was years ago in season 1, basically. Bella, in my opinion, as far as I've seen, and, I've seen episode 2, cannot portray a convincing and dominant Ellie, in my opinion. It's not even just about her looks. It's like the portrayal and the direction chose for her, that the directors went ahead and said we're fine or whatever the fuck, right? Bella herself, like, she doesn't look believable when it comes to an intimidation factor and, being a threat. So that's sort of it breaks the illusion of what's going on, right? There's being reckless, and then there's being a fucking idiot. And the show has Ellie continuously be both, right? She is immune to being affected, but not fucking death, of course. She is reckless and doesn't take things seriously, which adds to the dislike for Ellie when she treats Joel like shit, right? The show will have Ellie against a smarter infected, which will cause concern. Joel would go to his therapist and be told point blank that this is what kids do at Ellie's age. And while I disagree to a certain extent of what Ellie is doing, kids grow up and want to do their own thing. It's a normal fucking thing. But just be this much of a fucking asshole to your parent. I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's normal. Also, apparently Joel killed this therapist's husband, Eugene, who died of natural causes in the game. So I don't know why they changed that. And even in episode 2, they referenced it, but never explained what the fuck happened. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, it's so fucking dumb. Like, it irritates the shit out of me. So eventually everyone goes to a New Year's party. Dinah kisses Ellie. Some guy has a problem with it. Joel steps in. Ellie tells him she doesn't need his fucking help anymore. And it seems like, she got the message across with how Pedro, like, expressed how hurt Joel would be, like, with his face, of course, right? It broke a lot of people's hearts. I was like, Ellie's such a fucking asshole here, right? Like, she did it in the game too, but everything on top of her, like, her just being a brat and everything like that, and just being a fucking asshole, and this on top of, like, of everything is just, it sucks. It really sucks. And then the episode ends with Abby's group finding the settlement, Jackson Hole, where, the great golf tournament will happen. So yeah, that's episode 1. Episode 1 is not the greatest, but the series just started, so I can't give it too much shit yet, right? It's not like it was built on a super great story regardless, The Last of Us Part 2 isn't particularly everybody's favorite in the franchise. I understand people's point in the game that Joel's death made Ellie regret everything, trying to make things right, which she, doesn't, by the way. Make the message of the cycle of revenge make no fucking sense because Ellie murdered a shit ton of people and so did Tommy. And letting her go was fucking stupid and should have been a choice up to the player. Even when Abby had Ellie tied up and also Dinah in the show, they point blank should have just killed them both, right? Even the game had plenty of moments where Ellie and Dinah should have fucking died, right? It's fucking stupid. But a lot of the decisions to get to the end make characters unlikable more and more. And the direction, especially in the game, didn't help that either. And I feel like it's going to be kind of in the same direction, right? It's going to be middling, I guess, of that direction, right? In the show. Ellie going after Abby could have been better. Abby going after Joel could have been better. And Joel dying could have been better, right? The motivation to kill Joel is solid. Like, I'm not mad at that at all. It's how it was done, and it put a bad taste in many people's mouths. Now, with the show making Ellie feeling like really unlikable from the get-go, people not vibing with the actress more here as Ellie, the story itself being widely known to be disliked, it's an uphill battle for season 2, of course. But the episode was fine, like a 5 out of 10. Now episode 2, on the other hand, it was much better, right? And a few things that, had me raise my eyebrow, like in episode 1, where they reloaded the weapon extremely fucking wrong, which was really fucking funny, right? So, in episode 2, Jesse is my favorite part of the series so far. He goes in and busts Ellie's balls about kissing Dinah, and he didn't really care much about it. And he likes to fuck around. I can really appreciate that. Really made his character feel more real because he is responsible, he's mature, he knows when to joke around and when not to. So I like his character. I love Jesse. I know what's going to happen to Jesse. But yeah, it's going to be a wild ride. So the whole episode focuses on the attack on Jackson, prompted by Abby. Abby getting lucky and finding Joel, of course, because he's the only guy out there, right? And she happens to find him, of all people, and leads him and Dinah to their camp. And Abby killing Joel after taking Dinah hostage, right? So let's talk about it. First, let's talk about the attack on Jackson Hole. It was already established that the fungi talk to each other, like, on some internet Bluetooth sort of like connection bullshit, right? And when Abby accidentally wakes a fuck ton of them up, and a lot of them get a raid notification essentially from some of the fungus that were in the pipes, and they went fucking crazy. I think the raid on Jackson Hole was fun. I think they got the inside. I think when the infected got on the inside, it was a bit more confusing. Like there was some things that I would have expected more from probably people with military experience, right? I even went ahead and talked with a buddy of mine and talked with him about potential stuff to deal with hordes, right? Like, there's so much they could have done, right? For me, apparently when the infected busted in, some realized people were shooting from the roofs, and I guess no one was really watching like the roof entrance, the roof stairs for some reason. Maybe they did, but they gave that duty to that guy with an assault, not with an assault rifle, with a semi-automatic, where it was like just a regular ass rifle instead of like a machine gun or fucking something, right? It would have been really nice. Maybe a flamethrower, maybe use some Molotovs. No, they didn't do any of that. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember anybody reloading. I don't I don't remember anybody reloading, right? They gave some guys flamethrowers who were too pussy to use them, and they ran away. They fucking ran away. Like, if they didn't have the nerve to do it, why give them the responsibility, right? Like, guys, you have a fucking flamethrower. Fuck them up, for God's sake, right? There's four of you with flamethrowers. Go ahead and defend the line. But, of course, like, people get scared. I can't really, fault them too much, right? Um, I also don't understand why they didn't have Molotov cocktail crews or anything. People with assault rifles downrange, laying into the horde from a highly defendable area. Hell, more explosives if possible. It felt like they could have done way more, and they seemed prepared. They all looked prepared, like they had time. And even if the infected were there outside, they could have still set up stuff on the inside, right? But these are just my little nitpicks. Maybe a little bit more, right? Maybe a little bit more of my nitpicks. I did appreciate that they didn't shy away from the duty of killing anyone who was bitten. Like I said, I don't remember anybody reloading in this episode, which is really funny. And Tommy was on fucking business this episode. But goddamn, him shooting in the middle of a horde with none of them looking at him, like an infected horde, like, it just was stupid, because we all know he would have been speared from all fucking directions and fucked up if, like, if he didn't have plot armor, right? But all right, I'm done. I'm done with the Jackson stuff, with the nitpicks. I'm done. Maybe a little bit more later, but I'm done for right now. So let's get to Ellie and the Abby stuff, right? So Ellie is still pretty much an unlikable asshole when the guy who said those very mean words to her apologized, even tried to make up for it. Ellie just stared at him and just didn't really care, not accept the apology, which is, fine, it's fair, I guess, but at least be mature about it. But I will admit, Bella did a decent job screaming her heart out for Joel, but, like, that's about it. That's really about it. Acting wise, it was whatever. I didn't really care much about it. And Pedro, attempting to get up when, I almost said Bella, just off instinct, right? Because it feels like she's like her Ellie and Game Ellie are two different fucking people. When Ellie was screaming at her to get up, I think she went ahead and delivered well. It's just that, acting wise, I don't know. It's not the best. It was maybe average. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on that, because I'm completely checked out of this version of Ellie. So I just let it be. I just let it be. I genuinely think that they did better here. Instead of Tommy being with Joel, it was Dinah. How Abby tricked them into going into the camp and giving a valid reason to do so, which works better than in the game. Of course, in the game, they were chased by infected, but here it's like very subtle. It's a subtle trick, and it works, right? It works better than just walking into a room full of people you don't know and, getting fucked up for it. But the occasion for everything, like Jackson Hole being attacked, them like Joel working on good faith that these people will go ahead and help them out, especially since he couldn't think with everything going on. It made sense. It made sense. How Joel was captured makes sense by taking Dinah hostage. Makes sense. Then Abby starts beating on Joel and torturing him. Accurate to the game, of course. Wasn't really as traumatic, I would say, for the audience, but it's whatever. I do think they missed a really big opportunity here to make his death shake the foundations of Abby's group, and even potentially just Ellie as well, right? By telling them what really happened that day and, why he did it, etc., right? Telling them his truth. And Ellie could hear it while captured. I don't know, right? Either or. And it could have been something that could have been a game changer for the story as well. In the show, though, he just didn't explain himself. He just accepted everything, just took the beatings. It would have been so interesting for him to tell them and Ellie what the Fireflies were really up to, because he's the only one that knows like the full truth. And as Abby and the group were pretty young at the time, they were out on a scouting mission or some shit. They weren't really around when Joel was killing all those Fireflies. They probably did not know what was going on, what the leaders were really trying to do, and were under the base that Joel did it in cold blood after delivering them someone who they contracted him to bring, right? Did they know about the immune girl and what the dad was going to do? Probably not. It would have been so interesting to see the group uh, not only just Abby, but everybody else just realize what they were about to do. It would have been so interesting to hear his group talk about it too. Like us fans would talk about like the possibilities and what would happen, et cetera, right? Like question how her dad could perform this surgery when he wasn't like a real doctor, right? Like he was like, what was it? He had like a bachelor's in science of biology or some shit, and I don't think that makes you a fucking surgeon, right? um, the group will talk about it and the shit they saw, and didn't question it in front of Abby, but they start putting two and two together and sort of like kind of like think about it like, yeah, this shit doesn't make any sense, Chief. Like, how can he be like a brain surgeon? I know it's been like 20 something years. Maybe he has fucking practice, which is even more fucked up. But still, right? Making a vaccine off this one try is the chances, the odds aren't really in his favor, of course. Then even if it was a success, how would they make more? How would they distribute? How would the vaccine even go ahead and affect the already infected? And if it didn't do fucking anything, and prevented the infection, the world is still fucked up. So what's the point, right? It would have been really cool to see sides being taken. Ellie realizing that her self-sacrifice would have meant nothing in the long run because the world is ruined beyond repair. That trusting the Fireflies was a bad idea since they didn't even give her a choice to do it or not, which, she would have done it, of course, right? We all understand that. But we all know like the chances of it being successful would have been nigh impossible, right? Even if Neil Cuckman went ahead and said that it would have worked. Okay, what about all these other factors, Neil? Like, what about that, right? And as well at the same time, they were going to kill Joel, but it was like their leader. I forget her name, Maxine or some shit. Decided not to do that, right? If they had just put everything out in the air in the situation, it would have had a heavier impact on the story from this point on. Because even if they pop Joel, right, his truth and how he feels is out, and not only does it make Ellie feel shitty about everything she's done and everything that's happened, it would potentially fracture Abby's group, right, or her friends. I also want to see Tommy go fucking crazy. Like, side note, well, not really side note, next topic. I just want to see him go crazy and none of this off-screen bullshit. I want him to take care of like Abby's larger group, right? Because she's part of an even larger group, right? And I want to see Tommy go ahead and fuck them all up, right? I want to see him on fucking demon time like he was in Jackson. Fucking worse, right? And for Joel's death, like I've known about it since the beginning of all the game's bullshit with the leaks and crap, right? I just didn't really much care for his death because I know that, it was going to happen. Of course, I locked in for everything for the episode because I was pretty interested in, the fall of Jackson, and not really a fall, but like the attack on Jackson. But his death, I didn't really give much of a fuck about, right? And they didn't even go ahead and be as brutal as the game, right? They kind of took it back like a notch and a half, which I guess it's okay, but I really wanted to go ahead and traumatize more people. I just really wanted them to traumatize more people. I've seen lots of TikToks of people being like, don't fucking talk to me. This shit was crazy. I mean, everyone's like, the game was worse. The game was worse. But I think this episode was a solid 7 or 8 for me. But the Glazers that say that it's a 10 out of 10 episode because of how emotionally invested they were in the relationship from the first season, dying in their eyes, I don't really agree, but tomatoes, whatever the fuck, right? I don't really care. I would have preferred Joel's death to mean something other than meaningless death in the future for a revenge that didn't even take fucking place, that didn't even happen. And if it comes from, and if it has Ellie understanding Joel and his actions and forgiving him, as well as feeling like a fucking asshole and terrible and keeping this feeling for her for the rest of her life, this guilt and pain for the rest of her life. If it's just both of these aspects, I'd be happy a bit more, right? But yes, this has been my thoughts on The Last of Us season 2, episode 1 and 2. I think episode 2 is probably going to be the strongest episode, if not the second strongest, but we'll see in the next episode next Sunday. I think the season will just be slightly below the first season. Of course, that's just how the second game is as well. The first game is more loved than the second game, of course. But yeah, these are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you so much for the support. Subscribe for more. Just thank you guys so much. And, doing this really makes me happy. I love going ahead and exchanging my opinions with you guys and going ahead and hearing yours. It's a fun time. It's a really fun time. But this is the end. I can't speak. This is the end of the video. Stay safe and healthy mentally, emotionally, and physically. See you guys next time. My voice is disappearing. So later.